This is Ryan Elliott for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. We're here in the very cold New Hampshire with me, Eddie Hearn. Eddie, back here abroad, just about over the shocker last week.
Yeah, amazing night in Sheffield, and we crack on. Massive run coming up, of course, New Hampshire this week. Next week, Teofimo against Lopez, MSG. The week after, Haney against Jojo Diaz. Ben against Algieri, Taylor Sharapova, and then finish it off in Manchester with Chisora Parker. So, crazy run of fight nights, and it's nice to be somewhere quite bizarre, to be honest with you. I mean, the head of the commission just came up to me and said, you know, this is the biggest sporting event of all time in New Hampshire. And I was like, are you sure? Because I'm going to use that. So I'm going with it anyway. I know it's the biggest fight of all time in New Hampshire, but let's see. But it's good to come somewhere where, you know, it is a major event for the city. Manchester here in New Hampshire, and we're going to have a big crowd in there. And a brilliant night of boxing, 4 World Championship fights. And I wouldn't say it's a sleeper card because I think people are generally giving it props who are fight fans, but it is a show for fight fans, and I think it'll be a good night.
Start with Demetrius Andrade then, facing Quigley. I seen Demetrius yesterday, he was doing the odd Zoom call and stuff. He seems like he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder at the minute. All these big fights are being talked about. He feels like he's being ignored. Do you think he's going to want to go and put on a statement this week, well, on Friday night, given that feeling he's got?
I think he needs to. I mean, he always needs to. And listen, he's boxed really well over the years. I think there has been a lack of statements, as in going in there and blasting someone out. The Liam Williams win was a really good win, but how good if he would have got him out of there when he was hurt early on. Same with Suleski, same with Luke Keeler, maybe a little bit earlier in the fight. But when you talk about Demetrius Andrade, he's coming now, so I've got to be a little bit careful. I guess that it's extremely frustrating, and I don't know what else we can do. I saw him retweet a few bits yesterday where it's basically saying that Eddie Hearn and DAZN have got to look at themselves. I agree. I think you have to blame me because I'm the promoter at the end of the day. It's my job to make those fights, and I haven't been able to make them. But I don't know what else to do, other than make people huge offers that we've done, other than offer him to fight on other platforms and networks against champions in unifications, which we've done. You've got fighters like Jamie Munguia, and I just look at it and say, why aren't people talking to Jaime Munguia saying, why aren't you fighting Demetrius Andrade? He went up from 154 pounds, the WBO world champion, to that's their rules. You become automatic mandatory. He said, I don't want to fight Demetrius at the moment. Okay, I understand that. That's fair enough. Wants a fight or two to get in. He's had 4 fights. And now he says, hopefully I'll get an eliminator next. You don't need an eliminator. You've got a shot at the world title. And guess what? On DAZN, where your promoters also run their shows. So easy to make that fight. We'll do it in California. No problem at all. But one thing we have done, which we deserve a lot of props for, is keeping him consistent, giving him the fights, giving him the defences, paying him well. And he's a good guy. Listen, I love Demetrius Andrade. I could really do with a show-stopping performance this weekend from him. And it's going to be a tough fight against Quigley because all people are talking about is, oh, who's next? Why is this guy not fighting you? What about Jason Quigley? Lifetime opportunity for a good Irish boy to come over and win a world title. There'll be a lot of Irish here on Saturday night. And this is a tough fight, believe me. But if he can put a statement in, it certainly helps. But I think, you can blame a little bit of everybody, but ultimately it's on me. And I haven't been able to deliver him that career-defining fight, of which I'm not stopping trying to do. But on the plus side, we've delivered for him, we've kept him active, we've kept our word. And that's something that's plagued him in the past before he was with Matchroom, was his inactivity.
So, touch on the rest of it. He mentions a lot of world title fights on here. Murodjon Akhmadaliev, obviously Ronnie Rios not here. But again, I'm sure he'll be wanting to impress with potentially an undisputed fight going into next year. Yeah,
I think Akhmadaliev is by far the best fighter in the super bantamweight division. I mean, you're talking about a guy who is 9 fights in, beat Daniel Roman, unified the division, a brilliant talent. I think he's a pound for pound quality fighter. Velasquez here for him this week. It's a tough fight again because of his inexperience in the pro ranks. Akhmadaliev, I just think he's brilliant. Great fight between Julio Cesar Martinez and Arroyo. El Rey is one of my favourites. He's full of energy, he's full of life, and he's a tough kid. I think this kid's a pound for pound great fighter. I want to put him in with Estrada. I think that's the fight. A massive all-Mexican fight. But I want to see him unifying the division first. This fight against Arroyo, mandatory fight. Mexico, Puerto Rico, it's got everything. So good fight for him, and I look to see him shine. And Kaylee Reese, who's become a star, not just on the broadcast, but in the ring as well. And she's got a tough fight against Jessica Kamara. Chantel Cameron will be here because, of course, that's the semi-final of the Undisputed tournament, and the winner from Reese against Kamara will fight Chantel Cameron for all the belts. Australian's Dempsey McLean makes his Matchroom and US debut. Khalil Coe, watch out for him, brilliant talent as well, and a really good card, great night of boxing.
A few things away from this. Boxing has kind of exploded in the last 24 hours. There's so many things going on. There's signings, injuries, orders. We'll start with the WBC convention. Dillian-Whyte, Tyson Fury. WBC didn't officially order that fight. I spoke to you briefly about this earlier on. You said to me that's because there's arbitration going on. Can you explain that situation?
Yeah, so obviously Dillian-Whyte and his team pushing heavily on the legal side of that with arbitration to make sure they get the ruling they believe is fair and they desire. It's difficult for the WBC to make their own ruling until that is concluded. So yesterday wasn't a massive surprise, but at the same time, we want to make sure this is concluded quite quickly, which we feel it will be. And once that arbitration and that legal situation has had its ruling, that will be in solid position for Dillian to move forward. So that's the route that he chose to take in that respect, and that's the route that has to unfold, and it's on the verge of unfolding. So I don't think it's something that's going to plague him for months and years and stuff like that, but he went down that route and he wants to have that legal position in place that will allow nothing to take away from his shot at the world title. So we expect that to be imminent. He's more than deserving of a shot against Tyson Fury, and hopefully that outcome will come soon.
I know he wants that arbitration to sort of make sure legally he is locked into the fight and he can finally get a shot. How much does it dictate, though? Does that come even down to purse splits and things like that?
Yeah, it will do, and it can do. I mean, that's obviously to be discussed as well. Dillian-Whyte, as an interim champion, can have a 55 to 45 purse split on that fight. I know Top Rank were talking yesterday about 80-20, which is ridiculous, but that's got to be resolved as well. But we just want to make sure that everything is clear, everything is locked in, there's no room for movement, and that's why he's chosen to go down that case, because sometimes any ruling can mean that something is not clear, or something could change something, or there's an exemption to allow this to happen instead. So that's why he chose that.
Also yesterday, sort of exploded a bit. Canelo Alvarez and Andrade-Quigley. We saw Eddie Hearn saying that's what he wants. WBC said they were fully on board with it. Do you think that will happen?
I don't see why not. I think it's a brilliant fight. I mean, look, Canelo and Eddie, they want to make history. They want to do things that prove how great they are, and that's another example, if they can beat Makabu, of how great they are, because he becomes a 5-division world champion. Listen. I'm not saying he'll move to heavyweight, but Usyk's not massive, and you've got Trevor Bryan and you've got other world champions. Who knows with him? But one thing's for sure with them, they're not just going to make a move that's boring, And all of those options, not just with Matchroom, but with PBC and stuff like that. Gennady Golovkin rematch, huge, probably the financially biggest fight out there. Dimitri Bivol with a move up to 175 and try and become... I think Canelo can become undisputed at 175. That'd be amazing. Bivol, Joe Smith, and then Beterbiev. That's amazing. Go up to cruiserweight, fight Makabu. He can fight Lawrence Okoli as well. We're available, just so many options out there for him, and he's in a great position because, make no secrets, we're going to be very aggressive to try and bring him back to the zone. PBC are going to be very aggressive to try and keep him on PBC. I'm sure Top Rank also, someone else will come in as well, and he's in a brilliant position with this free agency, the way he's working, but it has to be a challenge. It's not just, this is more money than this one. It's got to be something that excites him and Eddie, and obviously the Makabu challenge is one that excites Eddie.
If when you, PBC and everyone else puts their cards on the table and says this is what we got for you, and they came back and said we want Makabu, it must be Makabu, is that a fight you put money up for?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. We know Tarek and his promoters. He's not aligned with anyone. I think that's a bad idea for him at the moment, because he's probably woke up this morning, just couldn't believe his luck. And yeah, we'd be very aggressive about Canelo against Makabu and all those options that I mentioned earlier, because he's the biggest star in the sport right now, and we want to be working with him. So fingers crossed.
Leonard Ellerbe, we saw his Zoom call with Gervonta Davis. He was asked about you maybe putting forward Devin Haney for Gervonta Davis. I'm sure you saw his response. What do you make of it?
I just did an interview with Oscar about it as well. I just can't believe how much I get under these people's skin. You know, like Stephen Espinosa blanked my handshake at the Canelo fight, like likes all these tweets with people criticising me like all day. And it's like, what are you doing? You know, you're a major player of a major broadcaster, and you let me aggravate you. Maybe it's just, I honestly think it might just come down to British banter and humour, because I don't know what else it is. And I like these guys. I like Stephen Espinosa. I think he's brilliant at his job. I think Leonard Ellerbe is fantastic. I think he's done a great job with Gervonta Davis. His shoes aren't always, you know, the best, but we can change that as well. And you know, but they just, something that I do just eats them up, and I live in their heads rent-free, and it's mad. I couldn't believe Leonard's reaction with that. That was a really legitimate question, where you would say you needed a replacement, and Devin Haney said he'd step in. Why was that something you consider? What he should have said was, Devin Haney's a great fighter. We'd love to make Tank against Devin Haney, but we were lacking in time, and this was a real good opportunity for us to move forward, and certainly that's a fight we'd look at in the future. But instead, he just went, fuck Eddie Hearn, fuck. So, I don't know. But I've done that in the UK, haven't I? And maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just a prick. I don't know. But it's quite flattering, because I need all these guys to keep talking about me. You know when Oscar comes on and starts talking about me all the time, I never go back, because I want him to keep going. Because it's great for my profile in America, because I'm on the rise. I need that profile in America. So by Leonard and Oscar and Espinosa keep talking about me, it's brilliant. So thank you. And you know, I don't know, it's fun. I mean, if they, they talk about Matchroom USA, they're not. It's how good has it worked, and DAZN, they're struggling. If we really were, if that was all true, why would you be so bothered? The answer is because it ain't. We're dangerous, but we're friends. We can be allies. We don't have to be like this, but that's how they want to be, and I guess we're just going to keep our head down and keep putting on great shows.
Do you think these relationships, these poor relationships, have proved costly at times? If you think of someone like a Demetrius Andrade struggling to get maybe a big cross-platform, cross-promotion fight? No,
I mean, that's a good question. I think previously, when we talk about the Charlo fight, we're talking about 2-3 years ago. Do you know what I mean? So maybe, I think sometimes with Bob, like Bob was another one, was just, he's all over the shop. But if he wants to make a fight, he will make a fight. And generally with the other guys, the same applies. If they don't want to make the fight, they'll just use that as another excuse why not to make the fight. So you can't start saying, does that mean you're not going to work? I mean, PBC have already said we only work with PBC fighters, with Tank. So we're out and running there anyway. That's why we're being so aggressive with Teofimo against Devin Haney. But isn't that what you guys and boxing hate so much, is people saying, we're not working with them, or we're not working with that platform, or we're only doing in-house fights. So, listen, it's a lot easier to do in-house fights. We're up for all kinds of business. But there's nothing I can do if I irritate these people so much that they can't even say my name, without their heart rate going to 150 beats per minute.
Last one from me, because I think we've got the press conference starting in a couple of minutes. Joshua Buatsi, unfortunately, out of his bout with Vlasov. Big shame for him. We expect to see that next year?
Yeah, we can. I mean, look, he may end up going straight into a World Championship fight. But he'll have an operation now. It's not a terrible injury, but pretty bad injury, and he's gutted. But, I think the Vlasov fight was one that a lot of people wanted to see. And I think it'll be Vlasov, or it'll be Bivol, or a World Championship fight. But, disappointing to see him just miss out on that little bit of momentum after a great Bolotnik's performance. But this is boxing, and he'll be back stronger.
Eddie Hearn, thank you as always, speaking of Boxing Social.